Ricken Financial presents Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you reach the retirement you deserve. Let's build a strategy that gives you confidence while meeting your financial wants and needs. Meet the team at rickenfinancial.com. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens.
And coming up on this week's show, we get personal with Gerry and Heidi to learn what exactly inspired them to serve the community. 314-970-4881. Always available at rickenfinancial.com. Gerry, Heidi, how are y'all doing?
Fantastic. Mark, how are you?
Great, Mark. How are you doing?
I know you get a lot of questions from the community to help customize retirement plans, but I think it's almost the same question always and often. What is the number one question that you get from retirees and pre-retirees? What's their biggest fear?
You know, most people who come to us say their biggest fear is, will I have enough? Will I have enough money to live on? Because I don't want to be a burden to my kids. I don't want to be a burden to society. What is that number?
I would say that's the biggest question they usually have for both of us. And then for me specifically, when we're talking taxes, they always say, okay, well, once I retire, how am I going to pay the tax? Because if you have to take all this money out, how do you cover the taxes? So between those two, those are really the biggest two fears we come across.
I agree with that.
Taxes and running out of money in retirement. So that's what you do to help out the families that you serve. So let's go backwards before we go forwards. Gerry, where did you get started and what brought you to opening up Ricken Financial?
It all started really with my dad. You know, my dad was the son of an immigrant farmer. My grandpa was a wheat farmer, dairy farmer, and grandpa did everything he could to make ends meet during the Depression. He was even a bootlegger at one point in time. But fast forward, then my dad was a farmer. And when he had 3 kids, he decided, okay, this partnership isn't really working with my brother. I'm going to launch off onto myself. So he went to part-time farming and joined the fire department. It was a fledgling fire department in South Central Kansas. He became a firefighter. So he worked 24 on, 24 off. Then the 3 kids became 6 kids. Mom stayed home with us until my youngest sister became school eligible. Then mom went to work. She eventually ended up in a manufacturing concern. And the important thing about both of their careers was they had pensions. Dad had a pension with the fire department. Mom had a pension with the manufacturing concern, and she was a cleaning lady. So she cleaned the toilets, she cleaned the floors. That's what she did for a living. But when they retired, they both had Social Security that was not offset by the pension. They also had 2 pension payments. So when they retired, they actually made more money in retirement than they did while they were working. And they scrimped and saved and did everything they possibly could while they were working. And in fact, Dad did a lot of things. He on his 24 hours off the fire department, he still did some part-time farming, but he looked for any avenue to raise income, to make it through with this family of 8. One of the things he did in 1961, as a matter of fact, was he became an insurance agent, and he sold life insurance. And in fact, when you come to meet us, his picture's on the wall. His business card from 1961 is on the wall. Also, his original contracts that he did were on the wall. But he didn't make a whole lot of money doing this, but he made a little bit of money. It was always enough to buy groceries. But he did everything he possibly could. And he said, hey, if you ever have an opportunity, after I went to college, he said, if you ever have an opportunity to become a general agent in a life insurance company, you can make a great impact on people's lives and help them, because life insurance is vitally important. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And then I went to college, became the first of my family to earn a degree, worked my way through college, and eventually ended up as an accounting major, graduated with an accounting major, went into public accounting. And when you become an accounting major and you graduate with an accounting degree, you automatically become your family's unpaid tax preparer. So I did that for several years. I prepared taxes. I learned a lot about taxes along the way. And then I launched into a tax planning practice. And eventually I just sat back one day and said, you know what? I really want to help people like my mom and dad, because mom and dad didn't have a worry as far as that initial thought that I had about running out of money. They never had to worry about ever running out of income, because they had 4 sources of guaranteed income for the rest of their lives that would last forever. And they also signed up for the 100% survivorship on their pensions. So when mom passed away 11 years before dad did, dad still had mom's pension for his lifetime. So he had his Social Security, his pension, mom's pension, he had more money than he could ever spend. So I always thought about that. And I said, what would really be cool is to help people who maybe aren't blessed with pensions, because most of us aren't anymore, to see if I could help them retire happy and retire stress-free and retire with enough income that they would never outlive. So that's when I launched off on Ricken Financial. And the reason it's named Ricken Financial is because when Dad sold life insurance in 1961, his company was Ricken Financial.
So when did you open the doors of Ricken Financial? Was it a one-man show in your garage, or did you originally have a storefront? Like, how did it become to what it is today?
I got my first license in 1996, and I was doing a lot of tax planning. I was using life insurance as a tax planning method. It actually all happened in 2008. And it wasn't in my garage. It was in the office above my garage where I started. So I started as a one-man band. I just launched off and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I launched off with 0 clients, and it just grew from there. And then, lo and behold, I got some office space later on that year, and we're still in the same office 15 years later. We're still in the same office building, different office space, but still in the same office building, because I drew a perimeter of 5 miles around our house and said, that's where I'm going to have an office. I found one within 5 minutes, so 3 miles away.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess you could break it down to say that your inspiration was your parents and the pension that they had. And you see that they had that stress-free retirement. And that's what you want for the families and for the community that you serve.
That's absolutely what we want, because when you have a mortgage, you're raising a family, you're doing all the things, you're working full time. There's a lot of stress involved in that. And Lord knows it's even getting worse. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, especially since COVID. We have, a lot of people are facing depression and stresses. And one of the biggest stressors in life is finances. So we want to try to eliminate that stress by doing just the thing that my parents were blessed with, those 4 streams of income, especially the pensions. And if we can develop a personal pension plan for someone, eliminate that need or that worry or that fear of ever running out of income, then we will eliminate that stress and help them retire a lot easier and a lot happier than without it.
We invite you to spend some more time on the website. It's just rickenfinancial.com. You can meet the entire team of Ricken Financial, see all the services they have to offer. You can even schedule that consultation from the homepage. Again, rickenfinancial.com. Your daughter, Heidi Ricken Provost, also a part of the team as well. And what I love about your story, Heidi, is that you initially had no desire to be part of the family business. If anything, you fought and pushed back, but something happened, and here you are today. Tell me your story.
So I was always one of those kids, I was the third girl in 3.5 years. God bless my parents for raising us. And then 8 years later came my brother. For many years, and not for faulting them or anything, but I kind of was in the shadows of my sisters, because when you're the youngest of the 3 and in that short of a time period, the teachers, oh, you're Mary Beth's sister, you're Barbie's sister. I was always that. And when I went into high school, I'm like, God, I want to pave my own way. I want to do something different from everyone else. Joined a sport no one had even heard of in the Ricken household, and played lacrosse and did all these different things that really were me. And then I go to college. When you grow up in St. Louis, it's such a tight-knit community. All these people at all these different high schools know each other. So many people go together to the same college and everything. And I thought, nah, I'm paving my own way. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to the only school I applied to where I know no one else going there. It just so happens that it also was the superior school in the state of Kansas. And I was following in my dad's footsteps, going to Kansas State University. I was so hell-bent on paving my own way that I was blind to the fact that I would love the industry that I'm now in one day. I was still in college when my dad broke off on his own and started Ricken Financial. And, you just heard from him. It was one-man shop at the time, and he needed a little bit of help around the office. So he said, hey, when you're home on these Christmas breaks and summer breaks and stuff, do you think you could just help out a little bit at the office? And I'm like, sure, Dad, word for word. I'd love to help out, but I just want you to know I'm never going to work with you. And he was like, okay. And in the back of my head, it's just because I wanted to pave my own way. I didn't even know what on earth he did yet.
Gerry, when you said that, hey, can you just help me out a little bit? Just need some help with some paperwork, some filing. Did you know in the back of your head you were planting that seed to get Heidi to come work with you? Or were you literally just needed another set of hands.
Oh, I was absolutely planting the seed. I had a plan all along that she was eventually the long ball was she was going to join the firm and take this thing over someday. So that's exactly. But I didn't position it that way, obviously, because it was just a very light ask, and she said yes.
It really was destiny because my grandpa Willie is the favorite human I have ever had in my entire world. But I think Dad was Grandpa's favorite, and I know that I was Grandpa's favorite grandchild. So it just all fits that, we've continued his legacy of Ricken Financial for generations and maybe generations in the future if they exist one day.
Dad very softly says, hey, just come give me a hand planting that seed. And Heidi, take us from what happened after that.
The other job I had when I was in college was I worked at Nordstrom in shoe sales, and I have to say I was a great shoe salesperson, primarily because I love shoes myself and I have a very large foot. So I worked there because I could maybe take some shoes to the side and buy them myself and not make any money in that career. And I thought I was going to save the world in retail management because they wanted me to do the whole management track there. And I did it for a hot minute and realized it absolutely was not my scene. In the back of my head, Dad kept saying, oh, just help out here or there. So when I wasn't at Nordstrom, I was helping Dad out here and there. And then one day, I distinctly remember there was a client who we had met with for a while, or rather Dad had been meeting with for a while. Their biggest fear, they didn't even want to come in and plan because they're the fear of the unknown. They didn't think they'd ever be able to retire one day. In the back of my head, I thought, oh God, Heidi, you have to eat crow now because this is something that's going to make a difference. And you really do want to join Dad in business, don't you? And it took me a while to get there. But finally, one day I was like, all right, Dad, I'm going to stop fighting it. This feeds my soul. So I got to join you in this business. And fast forward 12 years, I'm sitting here now full time as an advisor with him as well, duly licensed and all in. I mean, I'm not just half in on this thing. My now husband and I actually did 3 years of long distance when he lived in California for his work while we were still dating because, my clients came first and they're my family and they're what drives my soul and feeds my soul. And I couldn't walk away from that. As hard as that was, I'm all in.
I love that. We look back. Now let's look towards the future. Gerry, 10 years from now, what do you think Ricken Financial will look like?
I think in 10 years, she'll throw me out of here and run the place herself.
I do want him to retire happily one day, too. Although I know that he's going to have one of those dual retirements where he might go on vacation here and there, but there's just something in my dad's blood. I don't think, as much as I try to kick him out, he'll probably still keep coming back because he loves this.
And there's a lot of truth in that. I love what I do every day, and it doesn't feel like work to me.
Not like Gerry's going anywhere, but I love the dynamic of family businesses and continuing with traditions as what your father, what your grandfather did, Gerry, and now what y'all are doing as well. So you can meet the team when you visit rickenfinancial.com. And it's also worth noting, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you schedule that consultation, you're going to sit down with you, Gerry. You're going to sit down with you, Heidi. You're not going to put a new potential client to a sub-advisor that only comes in every other Tuesday and works out of a different office on the other side of the town. These are the people that you're going to meet.
You're absolutely right. And we like to meet together.
We bring, different backgrounds and ideas to each client that we meet with. So every person that comes through these doors gets to meet with both of us and get the brain trust.
rickenfinancial.com, 314-970-4881. Gerry, Heidi, thank you for the information. Thank you for the background. And thank you for the education. If you want more, again, rickenfinancial.com. We're back with another episode of Kicking with the Rickens. But before we go, Gerry Ricken, let's give you the final word.
Well, the final word today is safety. And when I say safety, I want you to retire safely. If something catastrophic happens, we don't want you to be a part of that catastrophe. Part of safety is guaranteed income for life, just like my parents had. We would love to show you how that works.
And don't forget,
every day's a holiday.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.